Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych Club, from the Tom Numbers Show and News with Tom Numbers. And I've got a really fantastic guest with me, Mr. Richard VOBES. Richard, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm not too bad. 8 hours in A&E last night with a little problem with my good eye. I have an artificial eye on this side, a good eye on this side, and a little blood blister. A blood vein popped. But otherwise, a bit tired because went in at about 6:20 and came home 8 hours later around 3:20. And but otherwise, all good, raring to go.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're on the mend. There's been a lot of that. I've had a little bit of a irritant with the eye, so maybe there's something going around. Before we kick off, Richard, how can people find you? Because this will go out on all my channels, and I want my audience to know you if they don't know you yet. How's the best for them to find you?
Well, ordinarily, I would say...
I know, we'll keep it careful, but ordinarily you're on YouTube and you'll be back in a week.
I am on Rumble, but I will be back by the time this is all filtered through and what have you. I'll be back hopefully Monday or Tuesday next week. So it's only a week out, and then I've got to be cautious because I'm on the naughty step. They sort of keep an eye on you.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, and I'm on local, so I've got a community there. So I'll mention this. So I guess my real super fans follow me on locals. Might be something you might want to do, Richard. But so I've got an introductory price with locals, and we've extended the deadline. So it was going to finish yesterday, August 29th, but it's going to September 11th because we've had a lot of people still asking about it. One or two having hiccups joining, but the majority are. So it's proven very popular. So the links will be below on local. So it was 29th August, but now it's September 11th. So get in on the early bird price, the founding members price. So, well, Richard, we met, didn't we? We met I think it was about 2 months ago now. It's gone quick. This summer's gone quick. It was maybe 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
We met at the gathering of the clans, didn't we, in Nuneaton?
We did.
People that went will know what that was. But I've seen you, these last few years from a distance, and I was glad that we got to meet because I was like, I hope Richard's there, and you were, and we contacted each other and swapped numbers. And tell me a little bit about your kind of origins and how you got to what you're doing, because you're just this kind of, I won't say just, that's an injustice, but you're this calming, reassuring voice of reason and positivity, and you asked me what sort of stuff do I like to do. I said I like to do the numbers and I like to connect the dots but give people a positive message of hope. And I feel that that's what you try to do. You try to uplift, and you try to give a voice of reassurance. That's the feeling I get with when I see yourself.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. I suppose my background, my sort of long-term background has been in filmmaking and entertainment. So at one point in my life, I was juggling and unicycling, fire eating, doing all those sort of circus skills.
Proper boots on the ground right?
Proper, corporate events, gala shows, with real members of the public, with 13-year-old kids who'd sort of poke at you and things like that on the streets when I'm doing robotics and things like that in the old days.
Did you do that down at Covent Garden?
I have been to Covent Garden, but funnily enough, I'm just trying to think what they were called now. There was a TV show, and they filmed me in Covent Garden as an entertainer or a street performer, and it was it's gone. It was a well-known TV show, and I'm kicking myself. Anyway, it was in the title sequence, for goodness sake. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I used to do that sort of thing all around the country at various events. And in the mid-90s, I put together a kids' television show, which was a slapstick thing, 10 minutes on ITV at about 4 o'clock. And it was effectively Laurel and Hardy in spacesuits is how I sold it. And it was these two bumbling spacemen that crash on the Earth, thinking they're going on holiday, but they hit an asteroid, crash on the Earth, and they crash on an allotment and they think the sheds, the potting sheds, are holiday homes. So that's where they base themselves, and they have
They are
adventures.
down here on the south coast. You could you get a potting shed. You
Yeah,
get a shed by the sea that's the price of a normal home. Yeah.
well, I was going to say, these days, the size of these things, they may well be ordinary homes. And then after that, I tried to carry on with the TV career, but it was sort of faltering. I'm actually quite pleased now that I'm not really in mainstream media and not associated with mainstream media, because knowing how terribly biased and how much it lies, and also even doing a little children's 10-minute show, I learned how big the egos were from all the execs and everything, how much they were after the money was the most important thing, and how much backstabbing went on.
Really?
And the creative side of it was fantastic, but the business side I just hated. So I went to YouTube, and at the time I thought, what the hell can I do which is free in terms of places to go or props or that sort of thing? And I thought, well, we've got this amazing country. Why don't I walk around the country and point out landscape, heritage, and nature, which is what I was doing. And I suppose I developed this style, this sort of mild-mannered sort of style, saying, oh, look at this lovely stately home over here, or this beautiful London plane tree, or this conker tree or whatever. And then I started to switch when I began after the pandemic and things had gone a bit weird, and I'd started to sort of wake up a lot more. And I sat in my chair and I was being this mild-mannered type thing in a very sort of humbly way that just seemed to hit with, I suppose, people that were fed up with mainstream media going, I'm not sure what's that, and weren't quite ready for the full-on conspiracy or conspiratorial, where people are extremely passionate. So I was sort of bridging, and also I was going down the rabbit hole at the same time. And so I was learning on the hoof. So a number of people have been with me, and they've said, Richard, we've enjoyed watching you wake up.
Yep. That's I can relate, and I hit. That's that bridge. You're that bridge. You're that in between, and people can see your organic growth with it. Yeah, and that's a big sweet spot actually, because there's a lot of people, discontented, but also not fully wanting to take a full plunge in the cold ice 17Q in the Q pond. Well, I'm in there fully, but I appreciate where you're at.
You've got to get people to you, and people like yourself. And there's so much these days. I mean, you think if you go back to 9, you had one big story, and that was it. But now you've got so many things all happening at once. And if you try to tell people, not JR, that was Dallas. JFK.
Dallas as well, yeah. Well, they're both in Dallas. JFK, in Dallas, and in 63 on a Friday, which is the word 63, which actually is VOBES as well. Your last name, VOBES, is 63. So
I was born in 63.
There you go.
There you are. Isn't that funny?
Can we take a dive into the rabbit hole, Richard?
Oh my God. What does that mean?
Well, that's interesting. JR, but I know who you meant, JFK, but then you've got his son, JFK Jr. But your numbers actually, so people that are watching, because Richard's on the show, so they might not know what I do with numbers. Numbers is, gematria is the technical name, but when I'm talking numbers, what I mean is A is the first letter, so equals 1. B is the second letter, so therefore the numerical value is 2. C is the third letter, so it's 3, all the way through to Z or Z for our American friends. And that's the 26th letter. And so you can add up people's names, places, movies, names of shows, politics, history. So anything in our language has a numerical value. And I've noticed there's a lot of synchronicities that seem to happen between the language and the numbers. And so that's what I do. And hence, when we're talking there, I didn't know you were born in 63.
I know, isn't that strange? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. So, and I feel that it's there to help give reassurance and positivity to people in this kind of confusing, almost overpowering mess of all the things that are going on. And your name, Richard, is 61. which is miracle. VOBES is 63, which is Friday. JFK was assassinated, and I'll say swapped out, in my opinion. There's something else to it. It's not quite what it says on the tin. So I think we might see a return of him at some point, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
So, and it happened on a Friday, which is 63. And even if you do 63 plus the Friday 63, that's 126, which comes to John Connor, Sarah Connor for the Terminator movies. I talk about that a lot. The word Terminator is 133, which is government, because they're trying to, govern the mental state of us. But also the word Terminator is 133. I said simulations 133. So there's a lot of these things that are connected. But yours, if you do Richard 61 miracle plus VOBES 63, 63 is Paris as well. Diana passed there or went into protection. But if you add them together, it comes to 124. 124 is the word compassion. People kind of in our circles that you've probably met, at least one of them because he was there. Andrew Bridgen is 124.
Right.
Lawrence Fox is 124. I believe, if I've got this right, no, the Reclaim Party is not. That's something else. No, I think I need to check. There's a connection with 124 and the Reclaim Party. I did it on a show a few weeks ago. But I'm a big Back to the Future fan. I watched the trilogy of them again over the weekend, over the bank holiday. And in that film, you have to travel at 88 miles per hour. 88 is a special number because it's the infinity, the double loop. 88 comes to Scotland, comes to purple, the royal colour, comes to Trump, and I'm a big supporter of Trump in this. I know he's polarizing, but I'm a big supporter of him. I've met his daughter Ivanka, I've met his son Eric. But 88 mph is actually 125 time travel, but it's also John Kennedy, and you made reference to him when you said JR, but I knew who you're on about, JFK.
Yeah.
What was I saying in regards to just before that with Back to the Future? Oh yeah, so Back to the Future, the amount of power needed in that film to time travel, they call it gigawatts, and gigawatts comes to 124, which is Richard VOBES. So I was like, I know you're into the entertainment business. I don't know if you're a fan of Back to the Future, but I thought I'd mention them. So Compassion 124, Andrew VOBES 124, gigawatts 124. Andrew Bridgen 124, and you've talked about how you're the bridge between the kind of, we know something's going on, we're not going to take the full ice bath, but we're going to, we need something in the middle. So, the numbers, the words, the synchronicities always pop off the page when we get going with it. So, and
it's not just the human thing about looking for patterns. It's not just, there's more to it than, because I suppose if I put my skeptic's hat on, you say, well, once you start seeing a type of pattern, you start, if you bought a red car, you always see loads of red cars. Yeah. Whereas before that, when you had your yellow car, you didn't see the reds.
Well, it's very interesting you brought both of those colours up, because JFK is 27, which is red.
Right.
And numbers, which is what I do, is 92, which is yellow. So it's very appropriate that you brought those ones up, Richard.
There you go. Out of all of the ones that I could have done.
Exactly, you could have done other ones.
Yeah.
But I believe that probably a bit of both actually with that. And the interesting thing with that is if you add red 27 plus 92 yellow, or JFK plus numbers, or reverse comes to 119, which comes to redemption. It comes to Nikola Tesla. And I think that probably we might see, as time goes on, we'll see more of the Tesla physics, the other physics, the quantum physics come into playing more and more in our day-to-day lives, where we get to actually use them. I think some of it's going on now. Maybe we're not privy to everything, but I think we're going to see more of that coming into the future. But to answer your question about, is it just your reticular activating system, your RAS, where you notice a red car or a yellow car? I think there's some of that. But I also think that I've seen I say that hundreds of thousands of them over the last 3.5 years, and I get them just day by day, minute by minute. So I'll quite often get something where I'm working on a number. I had it twice at the weekend, and I'll have a film on or something, and then the person will say the exact phrase I've just done the numbers on. But that happens to my brother, it happens to other people. And so these these synchronicities they're subtle, but they're really elegant and they're beautiful and they're reassuring. And so you can go beyond just noticing all the reds or all the yellows. But when someone, like I had it the other day, I was watching Heat, one of my favorite films, with Al Pacino in and De Niro's in. And it's not a commentary on whether these guys are good actors or bad actors in the grand scheme of things. I did actually meet Al Pacino the year before 2019. I met him when The Irishman came out at the film festival in London. And out of all the actors and all the directors, Scorsese, all of them are there. Al Pacino was the most gregarious and friendly. He kept running back to sign autographs with people. I got a picture with him. So if Al's watching, thank you for the time. And but Heat is a big. I call them Q movies. Back to the Future, The Matrix, Terminator, even chick flicks like Notting Hill, Dirty Dancing. There's a lot of films. I think most things have got the good codes in as well as the bad ones, but now we're opening up to the good codes and we're recognizing them. So the film Heat comes on. Heat is 34 in numbers, which is Grace, which is DJT. And I also spoke to Michael Mann, the film director, in 2016, I think it was, on the phone about a script I had written. Sorry, not a script. I wrote the script off about a show similar to this. I'd done a show with Michael Gambon, Dumbledore from Harry Potter, and I wanted to interview Michael Mann and got through on his phone. Then I got put through to the second and didn't really go anywhere. But fast forward to last weekend, and Heat came on, and I watched it, and it was late at night, and I loved watching it because I always enjoy watching. Anyway, the credits come rolling up, and lo and behold, the name Tom Numbers appears on the screen. I'm like, what? Hang on, what's that?
Really?
Yeah, Tom Numbers came up. I was like, what? And I don't have rewind on the TV. It's a pretty basic one here. And I was like, hang on, what did I just see? So I caught it a flicker, but I caught it. So then I found that the end credits to Heat on YouTube. So I saw the end scene and then the credits came up. And lo and behold, there's a person in that film in the credits called Tom Numbers. Now, I've shared this with my audience, but also a few close friends, and they made the observation, which is kind of obvious when you think it. Numbers is not really a last surname, so it's very rare. It's not like Tom Brown or Tom Jones or Tom Smith, which you could get that. But Tom Numbers is. Before I got named Tom Numbers by the community, I'd never heard of the name Tom Numbers, but there is someone in the film industry that is. And they're a costumer, and there's in the Heat credits there's 6 of them. It says costumers, and there's 6 of them, but Tom Numbers is one of them. But when I added up the word costumers with the S, it comes to simulation, which is 133. And I've been talking about the simulation for so much time, and it was just really it was another kind of wink from the universe saying it's not everything we think it is. I don't fully understand it yet, but I'm open to delving into it more and more. And it does feel like somehow this is maybe a very realistic dream or a simulation or a matrix or something that we're in, because these synchronicities seem to be happening at not light speed yet, but turbocharged and regularly, far more often than just a pure happenstance of coincidence. I used to get them before 2020, I'd get them, but nowhere near the frequency or regularity that I'm getting them now.
So I'm looking forward now to getting you on my show when we do it, because you can take us through this stage by stage, and I can fully appreciate it. But can I ask you this then? When you first started talking about this, I was thinking, I wonder, the question I would want to ask is, are we guided to write stuff so that the numbers add up as you discover them? Or is it that they're people who are, say, writing the script don't know that they're making these words that add up to the numbers that actually have meaning, like the title Heat, etc. And it just so it's almost as if subliminally they are going, Heat's a great title, that's what I'm going to call it, but actually as if it's guided from above or whatever to say, we've got to get to this number, and this is a word that works, and it works for the film, blah blah blah. So it's a very good question, and I've thought about it a lot, and I think it's a blend of both again, Richard. I think there are some people that know that, because
so I interpret the numbers. It comes, and I don't go. What happens is a thought, a feeling of nuance or inspiration, something comes in. It's really as natural as a conversation. So we're thinking all day, every day to ourselves most of the time, and we're in our own reality most of the time. Then we interact with someone else and we share that shared reality, or we'll do a show. And so I'm thinking all the time about everything all day long, every day. But there'll be certain things that just pop into, and I'm like, and I get a feeling, oh, what's that? So I know a lot of them, but there'll be new ones that come in, and that's when I get excited. I go, what's this one? And I find out what it is. So I interpret, I guess, a stream of consciousness, a stream of light, a stream of imagery that's coming through. And when people are writing things like film scripts or being part of it, I think probably a lot of them were doing as they needed to at that time, but something inspired them to do such and such. But I also would not rule out the possibility, and I think there is the possibility, and I think it has to be the case. There are some people in that industry that know more than maybe the masses did, and maybe have put things in deliberately. I'll give you an example. So when President Trump spoke or speaks, I noticed at the beginning of lockdown, he was deliberately misspeaking. And he was obviously, people know about his tweets, misspelling of the tweets, but he would do double speak. He would say stuff. He'd mispronounce someone's name. He'd miss the nest off of, and it was genius. And I was like, you can't write that. You cannot do that. A kind of, man in a studio room at the back of his garden in a shed writing out the script on what to say, because it was flawless. And I was like, how's that happening? And my understanding of it is that they're working on a higher level of communication. People talk about 3D to 4D to 5D. I'm not sure what this is, higher than what this kind of base level of 3D is, because I've experienced it in my own life, but I'm kind of a receiver of it and I interpret it. But then when I've seen it with a few, Trump's definitely one of them, and I've seen it with a few others, they will speak. And I think somehow their consciousness, that they're either being worked through or they're helping co-create. I think it's a blend of both. And there's a message there. I had it. So I decode the newspapers, the front and the back of the tabloids. So in England, we've got the Star newspaper, as you know, and the Sun, etc. So I've got this Darth Vader here. The Darth Vader is Star Wars 119 Redemption. We've spoken about it, and I've got I love movies. I grew up with Star Wars. I've got football here. I've got tennis racket here. Did Pat Cash the other day, and so very soon when I started filming here, I had the Darth Vader, the Star newspaper, and this is the other thing. So when I do a decode on newspapers, what I do is I'm not that tech savvy on it. I just film and go. So I'll take a screenshot of the newspaper, and I'll just hold it up on my mobile phone, and I'll show people, these are the words, this is what it says, and then I'll talk about it and I'll do a decode. So it's me, Tom Numbers, people will familiarize themselves, and they'll see that me holding up a phone is me talking about a newspaper headline. Anyway, guess what happened a couple of months ago? You got Darth Vader here on the front, and I've pulled out the Star newspaper for the last few years, saying that they're somehow reinforcing the work that I do, because they'll mention personal names of people that I know and refer to the shows I've done. Anyway, the Star newspaper, and I've got the picture, I can pull it up. They had a picture of Darth Vader, Darth Vader, holding up a mobile phone on the front page. Right. When's Darth Vader ever held up a mobile phone?
Yeah.
So it's like, who's done that? Has someone in the office purposely seen my stuff? And because I talk about the Star newspaper all the time. Have they done that deliberately, or has someone just received some, their own intuition, their own thoughts to do that? But it's magical, and I've had dozens and dozens of these prompts from the papers. But that Darth Vader holding up a mobile phone, I mean, when in popular culture does Darth Vader hold up a mobile phone?
So what is it about the Star newspaper that's
a really good question. So the Star, if you do the numbers on Daily Star, Daily's 51. There's a thing in the community called Nasara Jasara. You probably heard of that, or maybe not, but people believe when the wealth gets returned to the people, all these Tesla inventions for healing and higher living, that all comes under Nasara Jasara. That's what a lot of us feel. Anyway, Daily's 51, which is Jasara. Star is 58, which is Nasara. So Jasara plus Nasara, this optimum way of living that we're hoping will come soon in the future, that comes to a total number of 109. 109 comes to the word 17, and the 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. So that is all part of it.
Right.
Yeah. And my channel, Psych Club, also comes to 109. But I only created that name based on the kind of inspiration of Fight Club.
Right.
Prior to 2020. And Diana Spencer is also 109. And she was a big part of, her essence was a big part of teaching me the numbers, because when her funeral service happened at 9:08 in the morning in Westminster on the 6th of September 1997. But 9:08 is a weird time to start something official.
Yeah.
And I saw that 9 plus 8, what's that? 17, and then Q. But this all kind of came to me in a few days, the first kind of week or two into lockdown.
So this is why you see Trump holding up the T-shirt, the football shirt with 17 on it and things like that.
Yes, of course. That's it. You got it.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And Trump uses this series of numbers. So the name of it is simple gematria, or simple English gematria. Simple is 74, gematria is 74, and English is 74. So if you do simple gematria, which is a perfectly okay way to talk about it, that comes to 148, which comes to time travel. That comes to Emmett Brown from Back to the Future, but it comes to Donald J. Trump. Now, Trump knows this method, and I know for a fact he does, because you talk about him holding up the plaque, the 17 shirt, which that's brilliant. You've discovered it. You've got it there, Richard.
It's only because somebody told me that because I did a thing with a chap called Gavin on my show recently, and he was talking about Q drops. And he was saying that one of the things was that this 17 was being used quite a bit. Now, I didn't know what you've just told me. So it's like one bit of information here, one bit, and you go,
that's it.
And it's
that's
suddenly,
it. You got it. Yeah. You got the zing moment. Then it becomes exciting. It's like, okay,
that's really cool.
What else is there? And so when Trump speaks, even now when he's doing his rallies, and he said the other day on Tucker Carlson, he said, I'm the president of everybody. He said he's not even, really Republican or Democrat. He's the president of everybody. I mean, it's big problems he's telling in plain sight. But his rostrum, when he speaks, his donation text number is 88022. So Trump, the word Trump in numbers, A is 1, B is 2. So T is the 20th letter, R is the 18th, U is the 21st, M is the 13th, and P is the 16th. TRUMP. Added together equals the number 88. So there's Trump on the rostrum, on all of his speeches prior to when the last campaign with the last election, and this one 88, and then it's 022. 22 is MAGA. So it's Trump plus MAGA comes to 110. 88 plus 22 is 110, and guess what word that spells? It spells the word president. So he knows.
Yeah,
he knows, and he's telling everybody in plain sight what's going on. And that's how you can bypass the media, because he can speak in this double speak. He can use gematria, he can use semaphore, he can use color, all of it. And that's why
it's just another language, isn't it? It's another language.
It is.
And once you've got it, and you're obviously fluent in it, you see that, you suddenly see it, and new people will start sort of getting it and getting excited as they get bits. But that is amazing. Isn't that incredible?
It is.
Yeah. Because it reinforces how much we, the populace, just accept what we see and don't think there's anything behind it. And I can imagine you've had conversations with people who are not open to all of this and going, oh, that's rubbish. That's just coincidence. It's just coincidence. You're making something up. But as you've clearly gone into this for years and years and years, and not just you, but thousands of people, it's clearly a thing. But it is amazing how much is in plain sight and how much is there for us to observe, and yet we miss so much. We only see the big bold letters that say this way to the end of the world, and everyone's running that way, and then actually it's really saying no, it's this way to freedom. Exactly right. It's exactly right, Richard. That's exactly what it is. And it's
it is this hidden language, and it's something that we weren't taught at school, or we could have been. I mean, I didn't learn this from a book. Something just kept coming to me, thoughts during the beginning of lockdown. So even when Boris Johnson said it, you remember when he, went into number 11 and had to quarantine for however long, Boris up there doing all that, and something stood out to me. He said the key to the coronavirus puzzle is to stay indoors. And I was like, he's just told us it's a puzzle. And if there's a puzzle, you can work it out. And you can stay indoors, and you can watch TV, or you can research, go and try and figure stuff out. And I was like, okay. And I was already trying to figure out what the heck was going on. But when I heard him say that, it was one of those zingers. It stood out to me. I was like, okay, coronavirus puzzle. Okay. He's told us that's what it is. And it's another piece to the puzzle. The thing about it as well, coronavirus puzzle in numbers comes to 261. 261 comes to those dates that we've mentioned. November 22nd for Kennedy. Diana in Paris, August 31st, 1997. August 31st is 261. Terminator 2, they talk about Judgment Day. And Arnie Schwarzenegger says deliberately on August 29th. August 29th is also 261. The United States of America is 261. The Project Looking Glass is also 261. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Jr. You said Jr. Jr. That's his son. 261. There's all these things that are there with the 261. Even my show, News with Tom Numbers, is 261. I just chose that phrase and I worked out quickly what it was. But Psych Club, before I had any conscious knowledge of numbers, is 109, which is 17. It's like you couldn't write this stuff up, Trump is 88, Fight Club, and I based it on that imagery of Psych Club, Fight Club. That's why I've got the black and white picture, the dark to light. The dark to light 125, John Kennedy, time travel. It's a Q post. And I didn't know about Q. I didn't know about it. I always liked Trump, but he was American president, just getting heat, and I was just living life. But I always liked him. And then when the big one came in 2020, that's when a lot of us were like, hang on. But I felt my level of consciousness and intuition jumped up because I literally got given this download of numbers, like a PhD in 3 weeks, But it's all connected. It's all there, Richard. And I can see from your cerebral abilities, I can see because you've got a couple of zingers. You're like, and my advice to people is work out your own numbers, work out, those close to your family, your friends, things that you're interested in, and then you get your own black book of all these numbers, and it just starts to build up, and then it gets really incredible because the universe can talk to you. It can talk to you in real time. That's the amazing power of it.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because I've been on this journey and I've been talking to on my channel many interesting people that's introduced me in such a short amount of time, really, from November last year. And everyone's added something to the thing, and very early on.
Is that when you started, Richard? Was it November? That's when you started your YouTube?
Yeah, I had the YouTube for 5.5 years doing the landscape, heritage, and nature, trying to make a living from it and everything. And I had paid my mortgage off from doing corporate stuff, and so that's why. But it was just sort of. If I hadn't paid that, if I hadn't paid my mortgage, I couldn't afford to do it. So I was just breaking even, just living off paying the utilities and buying food, and that was it, And then in November last year, I saw Neil Oliver do something on GB News, and he was talking about the fuel crisis, and he said what would happen if we didn't pay our bills, and I thought. Yeah, what a brilliant idea. What would happen? And so I changed tact from all what I was doing. And I just sat in the chair that often people see me on my monologues now. And this was the very first one of these monologues. And I just sat there, not thinking it was going to go anywhere or anyone would be interested in, just saying, is he right? Is Neil Oliver right? Should we all just not pay our fuel bills, and what would happen? And ordinarily I was getting, perhaps if I'm lucky, 3,000 to 4,000 views on a video pointing at trees and old buildings. And within 4 or 5 days, 100,000 people had watched the video. I think it was like, oh my God. And the thing was, in the past, if I mentioned anything about climate change or anything conspiratorial or sort of the audience was saying, no, we don't want to know about that, Richard. Don't talk about that. That's not what you know.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we'd gone through the pandemic, and if I'd mentioned anything about that or was questioning, we don't want to know. Suddenly, there was an audience in huge numbers that was saying, we do want to talk about this. And so I just did another one and another one, and 6-9 months later, you're getting close.
You're being careful, yeah. It's a song and dance, isn't it? You got to dance with it.
It is, but and then I was interviewing.
Have you had Neil on your show?
Yes, once. He was on really to promote the Better Way conference that was in June. But I haven't kept in touch too much with him, but I got to meet him several times. I actually want to try and set up a live event, like a theatre show, talking with him and me, and sell some tickets somewhere, maybe at that same venue that we did, where we met in Nuneaton would be a good place, possibly.
Could do, yeah, that's possible. Midlands. Yeah, that's a possible, yeah. I'd like to.
Yeah, no,
sorry,
go on. No,
go on, please.
Well, I was just going to say, somebody else has asked me if I would do something, because I did something in Southampton recently, and I'm doing something with Matt Letizia in Southampton. Brilliant. So I'm on stage. I mean, my life has gone really bizarre. The thing is that I do tell people I'm the baby of the party. I'm still trying to wake. Well, I'm awake, but I'm learning, and I'm no expert. But I think one thing that I've realized, I'm quite good at not explaining things, but questioning things and seeking the answers from guests.
Yes.
So mostly that's about actually shutting up and letting the other person talk, which I have discovered. So I'm looking forward to doing more of these sort of theatre type presentations where you're actually, and I think that's really important going forward. And actually being in the same room with people, because with AI and the deep fake stuff, I can see that we can all be spirited away, but our on-screen presence can carry on, and the bias or the story, that the narrative that we are doing changes, and people still think that Richard VOBES, it's funny now, he seems to be in favor of the deep state and the one world government, when of course I may not be there. So that's why I think being in the room with real people, so they can actually prod you. And
it's really precious. It's really worthwhile. Actually, it's good that you brought that up, because I did a show in Bournemouth a few months ago, and I'm looking to do a big show with people like Matt. And I wanted to ask you, but I was going to talk to you off camera about it, but I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, more than happy.
I'd love to get you involved in that. So that's good that we're talking about it now. And you mentioned about Neil. And I love it when he starts his shows off and he says, "Hello, fellow time travelers." And it's like,
that's a great impression.
About Back to the Future. It's like, there's stuff there. So, Richard, it's been a real lot of fun. I've really enjoyed today, and I look forward to getting the chance to come on your show when you're back on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because you can take me through what you do and my audience who are on the journey. It would be brilliant. But thank you very much. No, it's been fair. You've introduced me to something that I was vaguely aware of, but didn't know, just thought, again, it was one of those things that eventually I'll get to. And it's fascinating. Brilliant stuff.
Thanks, Richard. God bless you, man. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.